Welcome back to another Red Label episode of the Drunk Rasslin Podcast. I'm the designated podcaster. My name's Jonesy. This is Jay McCaffrey. And today we are breaking down a match from 1986, August 28th of 86, the WWF's big event. It was a huge show in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Yep. At Exhibition Stadium. There were 74,000 fans there, right?
That's crazy. That's a WrestleMania crowd, man.
That is a... not then it wasn't. I mean, WrestleMania that year.
Yeah, for sure.
But the next year, I mean, so we're only, 7 months from Pontiac Silverdome at that point. So they were hitting their zenith. But this show was a big deal, and it was a big gamble. But anyway, the Red Labels... We pick some matches, we talk about them, we break them down, and this one was picked by Jay McCaffrey, and he's going to break this match down for us.
So the match I picked is Jake the Snake Roberts versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat in the Snake Pit match. And so this one was right off the heels. Well, not right off the heels, but they had kind of built this feud. And we had seen on Saturday night's main event, I believe it was, where they started the match and Jake the Snake took Ricky Steamboat to the outside and DDT'd him on the outside and busted him up pretty bad. Yeah. And Steamboat took a little time off and he had to do the I'm coming back thing. We got to
remember, DDTs at that time, man. Like, the DDT was more dangerous than a pile driver.
Right.
In 1986.
Yeah.
It had never, it was brand new, and it was the most dangerous move in wrestling.
And a lot of guys didn't actually know the mechanics behind it, right? Because Ricky Steamboat's as good as anybody ever has been, ever will be. Especially at that point.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And he took this and busted himself up for real. I remember seeing the promos he had cut afterwards because he cut his bangs off so you could see how he was all bruised up and busted up across his forehead.
Awesome. I don't remember that.
You don't remember those?
No, that's
great.
You
can find those. You can find some of those promos out there, and it looks. I don't know who cut his hair, but it looks like he just grabbed some scissors and was like.
They had a really uneven bowl.
Yeah, on top. Yeah, but his forehead was all busted and bruised up all across. You could see it kind of the bruising coming down
his nose and stuff. Wow.
I don't think he actually broke his nose, but you could see the bruising kind of coming down that way and under his eyes.
Crazy.
He took it pretty bad and busted himself up.
That's
pretty legit. So this was their comeback match, and the match I use this match a lot when I'm training wrestlers, even though it's a gimmick match, and I don't usually I usually try and use training matches to where they're not gimmick matches. I we don't need that. We need to see wrestling matches. Yeah. But this match doesn't get too crazy with gimmicks.
It's barely a gimmick.
It's barely a gimmick match. They spend a little more time on the outside. It starts off like just a classic wrestling match, and we really get to see Steamboat doing the kind of stuff that Steamboat does, and doing that superhero quick moves, a lot of arm drags, and just really taking it to Jake Roberts.
Right.
They spill to the outside after a little while, and they do fight on the outside for a little bit. He drops him on the guardrail a couple times, and they stay out there longer than they would have been able to in a regular match, which makes it the Snake Pit match.
Right, exactly.
And then when they finally fight around and get back to the inside, Jake Roberts is actually on top. And the finish of this match kind of comes as a surprise. Jake Roberts is kind of kneeling on his shoulders, and Ricky Steamboat just brings those legs up and pulls him back down. Almost like if you had landed a sunset flip, pulls him back down and gets kind of the surprise win.
Right.
One of the things that I really take away from this match and really like to show the guys that I'm training in this match is this is a match. These guys are working, later on, even in years after this, like by the time we get to like the Monday Night Wars and the Attitude Era, there's a lot of like beating on each other, you know, and there's a lot of that in modern, like, you know, if we got to be tough guys and we want people to buy the stuff, like we're laying it in and hitting each other really hard and you know, relying on that to make that sound,
right,
and not trusting each other to sell and make the move look like it hurt.
Right.
One of the things I really love about this is these guys are both working for each other, and they are not beating the crap out of each other. Even though this is like a heated feud and it's a gimmick match, Ricky Steamboat is throwing a bunch of chops.
Overhand chops.
Yeah.
Like a yay.
Yeah, and he's not throwing them to get the pop. He's not throwing them, you know, like a tough guy like we would see, you know, so many people do later on, where it's like, I throw a tough chop. No, he's just sticking a chop in there, and Roberts is selling it for him.
Yep.
And I think that's great. I also really love this match because, to be honest, like as great a name, as huge a name, as legendary as Jake Snake Roberts has become, you almost don't find a lot of matches where he is really wrestling. And he was, man. You know, he's such a good psychologist and such a good presence and character. Like, his wrestling almost becomes an afterthought. So I love any time you get to see some of those matches where he really digs in and bears down, and you get to see him work. And
he worked his ass off.
He worked really hard in this match. It was great. He was in good shape. He was moving great. He was keeping up. I mean, gosh, you know, who has really been able to keep up with Steamboat other than Flair? You know,
Savage, Flair and Savage. That's the list.
Yeah,
right. Like, honestly,
for sure.
You know?
And Roberts was there with him every step. You know, like it's just a really beautifully worked match.
Yeah, there's a couple of moments that come to mind, like, because that's really what hit me. Like, it was your regular Steamboat Flair or Steamboat Fair.
Right.
You know, so it was a Steamboat match. Like you said, he looked like a superhero. Sold his ass off when he needed to. Had all kinds of cool shit you don't see a lot. You know, he was Steamboat, man. Yeah. He was awesome. But there was a moment at the beginning where he did the knuckle grip, right? Yep. And he twists him under, and he would lift a guy. Well, Jake Roberts is 6'5", right?
Right.
Steamboat's 6'1", 6 foot.
Maybe.
Probably being generous.
Yeah.
That kind of leverage move was all Jake. And I watched it, and I thought, there's no way. There's no way I could keep my arm rigid enough to, because he
lifts him by that arm, yeah.
He lifts him by that arm, and Jake does a full back body drop over Steamboat. And I was like, I didn't know Jake had that in him.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. And he worked his tail off, and it makes you forget how great of a heel Jake was. Mm-hmm. Because that heyday, man, like you've pointed out before, he was the guy that
got guys ready for Hogan.
He got guys ready for Hogan.
Yep.
He was that face, and that's what he was for so many years. You forget how great of a heel he was.
Yeah.
And that psychology was everything. And, you know, there was a blood job in the match by Steamboat, so
yep.
they brought it up a level for the emotion in the match.
Right.
And it was really something, man. It was a great. I'm glad you picked it. It was so fun.
It's a good match. It's a good match to check out. I think you really hit on something. You know, something that doesn't get talked about enough is, you know, Stone Cold Steve Austin gets credited as that guy that was so bad he was good, and he was so cool and such a badass he became biggest face in the history of the business, right?
Yeah.
Roberts did that first, man. Roberts was such a good heel. They had to make. I mean, you know,
yeah.
It helped that he had the snake, and people thought that was cool, and the kids liked that. But he was such a good bad guy that the fans in the '80s demanded he become a face.
Right, and it wasn't long after this.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about WrestleMania 3. Like,
right.
He came out at WrestleMania 3 with Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
And he faced the Honky Tonk Man.
Yep.
Like, it was right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was a good show too. Like, you guys need to check it out. It's on the network. If you go to your local video store, like I did when I was a kid, it's the one where Hogan's wearing whitey tighties on the cover and flexing.
It's kind of a surprise that didn't become a bigger thing. You know, it
really is.
It's, given what the WWE has done with WrestleMania and the Rumble and Survivor Series, you know, to know that they were able to go somewhere in Canada and draw 74,000 fans. I'm shocked that never became a regular thing in Canada.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, well,
I'm sure part of it.
The Sky Dome drew 50,000, didn't it?
But they don't have an event every year that they go to.
Yeah, okay,
you know what I mean.
Okay, yeah,
You're right. They've gone to Canada and drawn plenty, and I'm sure they do big shows all over Canada. They have a strong Canadian following, absolutely.
Yeah,
but I'm shocked that we don't have the Canadian big event every year.
Sure, yeah.
Since this show, you know what I mean?
You're right. Yeah,
yeah.
Because and I don't think Exhibition Stadium's there anymore, but because I think that's what the Sky Dome replaced.
Right.
But it's always been a hotbed because and you know, Toronto is the Northeast. Like it's not the U.S., but it's it's the Northeast. Like it's right there. Like it is a part of their territory, and they did business with Canada forever. Vince Senior did. You know. They did business with Canada for a long time.
The Hearts and the Rougeaus.
Yeah, all of that. So it's really a cool video, and
it's a cool event to go back and watch.
Right.
And it
really is
slice out of time. You know, it's one of the few events of that time that kind of give, because even then when we see WrestleMania is almost its own thing. But this is like a kind of a slice out of that time where you can kind of see what the rest of their year looked like.
Well, I almost feel like, you know, this is the summer of '86. Yep. I almost feel like this gave them the confidence. We can go to the Pontiac Silverdome.
I believe that.
Which, by the way, is not that far from Toronto.
Yeah.
We can go to the Pontiac Silverdome and we can fill that bastard.
That makes sense.
You know?
That makes sense.
It's a football stadium. It's enormous. It's in a football state. You know, Michigan Wolverines are there. It's a huge arena.
Yeah.
I think we can fill it because we just did 74,000 or 78,000 in Toronto.
Yep.
That might have been a big confidence builder.
I'm sure
it was only a few months before.
I'm sure it was.
It seems like one of those calculated risks that Vince took early in his career.
Yeah.
You know, like the first Mania,
yep.
And then, hey, we're going to simulcast this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Really? Sounds terrible, but
right.
Okay. Man, good stuff. That was a good pick. Good pick.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was the second or third wrestling tape I ever watched.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I got introduced at WrestleMania 3. My dad had borrowed the tape pay-per-view. That's probably illegal. From somebody.
Oh. Don't tell
Brought it home. Me and my brother watched it. And then every time we went to the video store after that, had to be a wrestling video.
Yeah.
So we'd get Mania 1. We'd get Mania 2.
Yeah.
And then we're out of stuff to watch. So one time we see Hogan in Whitey Tighties, and we're like, let's do it. Let's go. Yeah. Good stuff, man.
There you go.
Good pick, dude. Cheers to
Thanks,
that.
brother. Cheers.
Thanks for watching the Drunk Rasslin' Podcast. This is a Red Label episode. This is where we just break down small matches. It's a little taste of what we do normally. And you can find all of our stuff on your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, all of them. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook.com/drunkwrasslin. We're on Twitter @drunkwrasslin, RASSLIN. Not going to be able to spell that later in the evening. We also have a website, drunkwrasslin.com, where we put up everything we make here and links to all of our stuff. We appreciate you guys joining us, and I hope you guys check out more of our stuff. We love watching old wrestling. Cheers to you guys.